Man, I was thirsty today. Boom, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spook Realm 4Q once again. As usual, you are still number one. Let's see if I can make this big. Let me see if I can move quick. I'm gonna mess this up, y'all, but every week we try. I can't make it small. Here we go. Here we go. Every week I try, every week I fail, but here we go. Rasul Hassan, what up? John Walker, what up? Uh, oh yeah. RIP to Daniel D. Spencer. Let me jump on this real quick. Um, I just saw earlier that Dr. Danielle Spencer passed away today at the age of 60. Um, that's it, just 60 from cancer. Once again, one of our favorite childhood celebrities has passed, and I would argue the funniest sister in the history of television. Uh, Thelma from Good Times was funny, but she was more funny to me with JJ dissing her made it funny. But D going again at Raja is some of the funniest stuff ever on the show What's Happening. For those that used to watch What's Happening, I think Dee is the funniest sister and one of the funniest characters and antagonists of all time. I had the pleasure of meeting the actor who played Dwayne on the show What's Happening. And I met him about 4 years ago. And I did not say, hey, 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 even though I wanted to when I met him. Somebody introduced him to me. He was super cool. Uh, but yes, RIP to Daniel D. Spencer. Um, Another one of our childhood people gone. All right, let me move on. Great Beard, what up? JT, what up? Uh, Gregory Nettis, what up? Corey Flood, what up? GF Worrell, what up? Patrick Y from Northeast Bronx. Uh, let's see. Let's see. JT, what up? Um, Leonardo. Oh, I am nerd. Let me make this bigger so I can see. I am nerd. I am murd. I am murd. I don't know. I am murd. Boom. By the way, I will not be here this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We normally been doing Fridays moving forward, starting at the beginning of the summer. I have a DJ gig in New York City. I should be posting the flyers soon for those that's in the area uh, on Friday evening. So I will not be here Friday, which means I may or may not push back to Saturday night. Uh, and I had a guest lined up this week. I was trying to get the confirmation on a good one, but we couldn't nail it down. So maybe next week. Um, yeah. MK Ultra says RIP Isaac Hayes. I know Isaac Hayes passed away a long time ago. Uh, he's been sampled so much by hip hop. I'm gonna call him a friend of hip hop. I see his son floating around on social media. Ilroy, what up? Joey Joe, what up? ACAB, yes, KP, what up? Sydney Rhodes, what up? Live with Deacon Strange, yo. Uh, I saw your message. Yes, let's do it. Um, Joey Joe says, Corey Flood, who named D just passed? D from What's Happening. Uh, brother, sister of Roger. She used to extort Roger crazy for money not to tell mama. Ooh, I'm going to tell mama. Y'all remember that? She was funny, man. Samuel Gervais, what up? DJ Q Storm, KP, what's good, fam? That beat was super dope, bro. Oh, thank you so much for those. I posted what's it called? Flute Groove. Couple days, Sunday mornings. I'm trying to do a beat every Sunday morning. And I posted a beat called Flute Groove. Actually made 2 beats out of that flute sound, as it turns out. I may post the other one, but most people don't really mess with flutes, but for those that didn't get a chance to check it out, it's part of my beat series. I'm trying to drop a beat on Sunday mornings. I'm starting with the old stuff, and then I'm going to move my way up. Thank you so much, Q Storm, for liking the track. Don Dallas TV, what up? Craig Roussan, what's up, Kenny? First time from Jersey. Big up Jersey. We got a new listener, a new supporter on the channel. What's up, family? Welcome. Derek Mallory from Minneapolis, St. Paul. Reggie Johnson, it's a good question. What's up, KP? I know Mr. Magic dissed PE. Then Chuck mentioned the Juice Crew in his song Prophets of Rage. I don't remember the exact diss, but was there any actual beef there? I'm not sure. Those are 2 crews that I wasn't familiar. You know, I'm familiar with them, but I wasn't part of their crew. Didn't Mr. Magic break one of their records live over the air? I think it was, what's their first single? Public Enemy #1, which was a banger. I believe, didn't Mr. Magic take that off the air, take it off the turntable and break it live on the air? Something like that. Mr. Magic was super disrespectful to people. That's why he had a lot of enemies. And I do believe he had a physical altercation with Big Daddy Kane that didn't go well for Mr. Magic, I heard. But rest in peace to Mr. Magic. I got to meet him years later in the 90s, and he was mad cool. So, you know, he was the hip hop's first shock jock. Chef Daddy says Flute Groove was fire. Thank you so much. Red says, how about Big Shirley? Didn't Big Shirley pass away a little while ago too? Was that like 2 years ago? I know Rerun passed away years ago. And I think didn't the rest of the cast have beef with Rerun over something to do with the contracts? I'm not sure. This is just all off the top of my head, but I thought that the rest of the cast was beefing with Rerun, who I happened to see one time in Harlem. Now that I think about it, I saw Rerun probably in the early 90s walking down the street in Harlem, New York. I remember he used to do that dance. He was crazy with the freestyle dancing. That's when TV shows were just gigantic. But yeah, I think Big Shirley, she was mad funny too. That was just a funny show. All the characters were funny. Rod Justice says, I remember when I was young, people used to say Danielle Spencer was Roxanne Shante. I would argue, no, she is not. That's odd. Gregory Netta says Daniel Spencer actually passed away yesterday. Okay, it wasn't today. I just saw it today. MMA says What's Happening was one of those shows that babysat a generation. Yeah. There's a time when remember we were young, there wasn't money for a babysitter in many households. Your parents would just sit you in front of the TV and you would just be there for hours, entertained. Guess that would be the equivalent of sitting in front of your phone today on social media. But we would sit in front of the television and just all kind of great shows would come on. These people in TV were larger than life. They weren't even real people. Even, to this day, when I meet people that were on television, it takes me a second to realize that that's a real person. It's crazy. Corey Flesh says D was also a member of the hip hop group The Sequence. I don't remember that. I think you got that wrong, Corey Flood. Let me roll down. Q Storm. Oh, I forgot. I always got to do this, DJ Q Storm. Big up to the Rewind crew. That's going to be checking this out later. Rod Justice says, hail to the Friday DJ gig. Word, man. Always good to be working. Ilroy says, who is the better DJ, you or Chris? Actually, Chris is the better DJ, I would say. Why? A, he taught me, and B, all of those scratches you heard on all of them BDP records was KRS. Outside of Criminal Minded and whatever DJ Premier did, Preem probably did like, what, 10 songs with KRS, maybe? Something like that. 7, maybe less than 10. 10 or less than 10. No more than 10. But if you're looking at DJs who have scratched on hit records, I would say KRS is up there, way up there, man. DJs who have scratched on a hit record, KRS is way up there. So I will always say KRS is better. He doesn't have the record collection like I do, though. Terrell McMillan, of course, what up, man? Oh, yeah, MMA says Blair and Joe, not sisters from Facts of Life, were entertaining too. Blair and Joe were funny from Facts of Life. That was a funny show. I wouldn't put them as funny as D going at Roger. D versus Roger is some of the funniest, in my opinion. Patrick Wise says, yeah, no, D wasn't a member of the Sequence. Angie B, aka Angie Stone, along with Cheryl the Pearl. Hey, that's me. No, Blind D. Hey, that's me. It was Blind D. It was hey, that's me. And Cheryl the Pearl, Angie B. And they were from South Carolina, which is crazy. The first groups, among the first rap groups to break out in hip hop were not from New York City. Sugar Hill Gang was from New Jersey, and Sequence was from South Carolina. Criminal Minded, great name, says Isaac Hayes, Walk On By, incredible song. Isaac Hayes has so many incredible songs, so many incredible samples. Kenny, I will gladly, Corey says, Kenny, I will gladly special guest host the Friday show. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Corey. But I might just move it to, Saturday, maybe. Let's see. Eye of the Phoenix, KP, what up? What up? I've been checking the beats too, though. Thank you. Patrick Watts says, oh yeah, check out that flute beat, smooth, thanks. Bill Shapiro says, yeah, that flute beat is phenomenal. By the way, I forgot to do my Spook Realm PSA. please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Please, 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 right now, just hit the like button. And purchase the book. My brother's name is Kenny. The link is in the description below. Derek Mallory says Snoop Dogg G's Up has down, hands down, hose down. Didn't get the approval from Isaac Hayes, but it was on a cassette from which I still have. Yeah, I think they had to take that off the album. But what's the Stranded on Death Row was Isaac Hayes from The Chronic. They cleared that, so why did they clear G's Up, Hose Down? I wonder what happens with sample clearances, how things just slip past people. There's whole departments in charge of that. I heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true, that Death Row was on some gangster-ish. They'll just sample your record and dare you to come try to get your money. I heard there was tons of lawsuits. I mean, I know for a fact there was tons of lawsuits against Death Row over samples and unpaid royalties and things. But I heard that they would sample things and just don't care. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know if that's true. I don't like putting, I can't even retract that because I don't really like putting out rumors, things that I don't know for sure. I do not know that for sure, but I heard that. Live with Deacon Strange says, yo, Kenny, if you had to put a dollar amount on the amount that D extorted from Raj, how much do you think it would as a total? That's a great question. Somebody should do that. I wish somebody had access to that show just went through all, because it'd be like a quarter, 50 cent times just about every episode. It had to be up around $20, $30. She was serious too. She'll start making noise. Ooh. And Ron would be like, quiet, quiet. And he'll have to give her money. And sometimes, didn't she tell even after he paid her? She was bad, man. Spook Realm says, flute groove is smooth. The elder and youth move. A beat from the street and B-boy approved. Uh-oh, is that your rhyme on that beat? MMA says, I think the anniversary of Bernie Mac passing went by recently, too. Yeah, I didn't know when he passed. There's a lot of anniversaries. I mean, every day is such a blessing, man. Every day is such a blessing to be alive. You never know when it's your turn. Def Rocker says, will.i.am says Black Thought is 1,000,000,000 times better than Jay-Z. Your thoughts? So we started talking about this on Friday, I believe. I'm going to say that's will.i.am's opinion. 1,000,000,000,000 times better. That is like, that's like night and day. That's like Jay-Z is not even in the same universe as Black Thought. I disagree with that, but what I would love to hear him elaborate a little on that. What is he measuring? What is the measurement that he would say that? But everyone has a right to their opinion. That if will.i.am feels that is an absolute fact for will.i.am. I don't know what would cause him to say that out in the public. Great bit. I guess he's talking about PE. Says it might have been my Uzi Weighs a Ton. My Uzi Weighs a Ton caused me to buy that PE album. I heard Public Enemy #1, and I liked them, but then I think I was listening to the Awesome 2. Shout out to Special K and Teddy Ted. And they played my Uzi Weighs a Ton. It was so hard. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go get this album. And I bought their first album, Yo Bum Rush the Show, based on that song. Beyond the Matrix, what's good? MMA says TV shows babysat the youngins. Yes, they did, man. You could literally leave the TV and go about your business. Patrick Wise says, I never liked Mr. Magic. He was an instigator that could have caused deaths if rappers were of a different mindset. KRS and Shan could have easily been dead if they and their crews had a different mindset. I absolutely agree 100%. I think um, the next generation of rappers that came in the 90s were a little bit more violent and had that. Mr. Magic had the same power in the 80s, in the 90s that he did in the 80s, saying things that he said, it would have caused a lot of problems. Uh, KRS and Shan could have easily, I could tell you for a fact that that could have easily popped off. KRS and Shan, maybe not them two, not KRS the artist and Shan the artist, but the entourages, I could tell you for an absolute fact that that could have popped off at any time. Fact. That I will state. And I say I don't like to state stuff that I don't know for sure. I know for sure that that could have popped off. A whole bunch of beefs could have popped off. JT says, yeah, that was that No More Music by the Suckers on P.E.'s album. Magic really took some L's. Yeah, man. He dissed some really classic groups. He even dissed Scott LaRock after Scott passed. He made some wise comments on the air, and members of, as I hear it, members of BDP caught up with him, and it was a sticky situation. But I wasn't there, so I can't tell y'all what happened, but I heard the story. That definitely happened. He definitely dissed Scott on the air, and he definitely had a confrontation with some members of BDP. Uh, This Marley Marl always caught flack for negative stuff. Mr. Magic used to say Marley was like, "I'm just a DJ. I never dissed anyone," which is the catalyst for BDP and Shan beef. Though everybody knows the story. If you don't know the story, please get the book. My brother's name is Kenny. The link is in the description below. I go into great detail, but the reason why KRS and Scott went at the Juice Crew is because Mr. Magic disrespected them in the studio. When they brought their single to Mr. Magic, Scott and KRS was trying to get Mr. Magic to play their record and possibly join the Juice Crew. Could you imagine if KRS and Scott was in the Juice Crew? Wow. They were trying to, but Magic was so disrespectful and literally threw them out of the studio, which caused the South Bronx record to really be made and set the whole thing in motion. Uh, Let me butcher your name one more time. Daynell the Don Freeman. Hope I got it right this time. What's good, my brother? MK Ultra says, keeping your head above water, making a wave when you can. That's good times. Probably the most classic black show ever. Not ever. Yeah, maybe ever. No, Cosby Show is probably the most classic, but Good Times is up there ever on television. Live with Deacon says Rerun wanted more money and accused the producers of being racist, so the producers decided to cancel the show, I think. It was something like that. It was something over money. Could have been that. I'm not sure what it was, but Rerun, the rest of the cast was not happy with Rerun. Jamil Live says, "What's up, Kenny? What up? Kenny, I send you a video speaking hip hop. Are you going to do, what's up, Kenny? I send you a video speaking hip hop. Are you going to do any more public speaking or lectures? I hope to have some coming up soon. I love doing public speaking and lectures, especially talking to the youth, but anybody. But yes, hopefully some coming up soon. Benny Doyle, half of the Doyle brothers, says, I'll take a Saturday this week in a swap if Friday, but please, Kenny, please don't get rid of Fridays if you don't have to. No, I plan on doing every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just that this Friday, Fridays are party nights, and this particular Friday I will be rocking. Hopefully, uh, things could get canceled at the last minute, but I'll be rocking. I believe I'm on from 9 to 12 or 8 to 11. I can't remember if it's 9. I gotta look. It's either 9 to 12 or 8 to 11. And I'm rocking all vinyl 45s. So I won't be able to be here. But Fridays is in full effect. Um, let's see. Joey Joe says, I wasn't big on What's Happening, but it wasn't bad. Just thought it was just I loved What's Happening. I love that show. Benny Doyle says, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Magic shit on Public Enemy because he thought they were part of Boogie Down. I don't know why he would think that in '87. Magic was a insider as well. Like, he was a music insider. He would know who was down with who. Um, Public Enemy and Boogie Down Productions in '87 were absolutely not affiliated. And he would know better. It's possible that he did that because of that. I know him and Just Ice weren't really that great either. Justice called him Tragic Magic. Plus, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. Some people, I mean, I even say that. I'm not going to say that about him because I don't know. I don't know for sure. Let me not say something I don't know for sure. But he had enemies. MK Ultra says, for the 2225 R&B Grammy, Kenny Parker with his song, I'm not going to sing it unless they're here. But yeah, I think that's my hit, man. And I might put some auto-tune. I might get an auto-tune, since for the young kids, they might not recognize real singing. So I might get auto-tune and put it on here so that when I sing it, the young kids can relate. I think auto-tune is the absolute worst thing that ever happened to music. Dan Marasuti says, R.I.P. Miss Garrett. Yeah, from Facts of Life. Yeah, she did pass away. Rosmel says, Mr. Magic was an a-hole, but the Rap Attack show was legendary. Facts. My family used to blast it during our weekend BBQs. Everybody listened to Mr. Magic in New York. He is a radio pioneer. But he was not a nice person, man. Not on the air. I didn't know this. Africa from the Jungle Brothers scratched on Ja Rules on the Ghetto Music. I did not know that. I was not in the studio for that song. Is that the one Harmony is singing on? I was in the studio for that song, but that's a good piece of trivia. MMA says the early seasons of Good Times were the best before it relied on JJ's reactions. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great all the way up until the father, James, passed. That's when the show, as they say, jumped the shark. That's when the show changed. After James passed, and there was friction because the show was originally supposed to be about Florida and James, and JJ and Thelma and Michael were the side, the supporting cast to their story. But JJ became so popular that the writers started moving some of the show in his direction and started adding more of his zany character to the show, and that caused problems with the older actors. But I remember as a kid, we could not wait for him to say dynamite. We used to lose it. Remember everybody in my class, I think I might have been in second or third grade, everybody was dynamite, dynamite. Remember they had lunch boxes, they had all this merchandise with just JJ on it, nobody else from the cast, just JJ, and dynamite on everything. He was a huge star in the 70s. And I think his jokiness, it took the show, even though the show touched on many, many, many serious topics, I think it did take the comedy a little bit more slapstick in his direction. But you got to go with what's hot, man. I mean, Happy Days, Fonzie was only supposed to be on there from time to time, if I recall. Fonzie was a special guest from time to time, and he got so popular they had to add him to the show and make him a regular. I think Arthur Fonzarelli has to be, along with John Travolta, one of the biggest television stars of all time. Fonzie was a household name. And he wasn't even supposed to be on that show. But sometimes, when you get a hit, it's the same like in a band. You could have a whole band and everybody's equal, but one person in the band kind of rises up. Whatever they're doing is attracting a bigger audience. You have to go in that direction, sadly. And it can cause friction with the other members, but you got to ride that wave when it's hot. And Good Times rode JJ, Happy Days rode Fonzie. You had to. I love that show. I just thought when the father passed, and he left, part of why he left was from bashing the show. And they fired him. Yeah, they were not happy with the whole JJ thing. Which was whack because you needed JJ to be crazy. And then you needed the parents to kind of bring the show back into where it's supposed to be. That would make the dynamic dope. You didn't need all JJ acting a fool all the time. And if a whole show with just James in Florida, it would have been dope, but it would have been a little bit serious. You needed them to be serious, and then JJ just come in with some crazy pajamas on, and everybody just bust out laughing like, "What are you doing, bro?" I thought the formula worked, but what do I know? Ed Olivier says, where was the Duck Down video shot? In the Boogie Down. We shot Duck Down M13 and Good on the same weekend. Duck Down first, and then 13 and Good. And shout out to the legendary Hughes brothers who directed the video. Remember, I got in a big argument with one of the video assistant directors, and I was dead wrong too. The following day, we were doing 13 and Good, and me, Willie D, BDP, Willie D, rest in peace, and some other dudes, we were on the sidelines talking, making too much noise because we weren't in the scenes, and the guy came over a couple times like, be quiet, and we would be quiet. The next thing you know, we talking, and then the noise coming. And one day he came over and was like, "Yo, y'all gotta calm, y'all gotta be quiet, man, quiet on the set." And for some reason, I just lost it. I don't know what happened. I was just like, "Yo, who you talking to, bro?" And I just jumped up, and it became a whole scene. Like, stop the video. And I was 100% wrong. Time is money. Every time they got to take out time to tell somebody to be quiet, It's costing money. Shut up. They should have really, we all should have went outside or went somewhere else while if we weren't in the shoot, but we chose to be right there making noise. Then I had the nerve to have an attitude when the dude told me forcefully to be quiet. I remember he was scared as hell too. And I remember afterwards, Willie D went over to him to smooth it out. And the guy was like, yo, man, I didn't mean any harm. I just was trying to do my job. And Will was like, yo, he's really kind of mad, man. I think you should give him $100 to calm him down. And the guy was really contemplating it, like, you think it'll work? Will was like, yeah. So Will was trying to extort the dude for $100 to calm me down, but I was wrong. I was 100% wrong, but I remember that incident. And I also remember that one of the dudes from the Bad Boys, remember Inspector Gadget? That record was monster in New York. The Bad Boys, Inspector Gadget, they had K-Love on the beatbox. What year was that? Was that like 84? Was that 84, 85? That came out right. That and This Is Called the Show came out at the same time. And they both used the Inspector Gadget theme song from the cartoon. But that Bad Boys song was rocking in New York. And that was in like 85. So this is 92 when we did Duck Down and 13 and Good. And that guy was there. One of the rappers from that video was there. Matter of fact, it's crazy because I think it was the dude in that song. He said something, something. He was rapping in the song, and Inspector Gadget, he goes, something, something. He said, and if every once in a while you take a sniff of the blow, say ho in the song. I said, yo, he said, if every once in a while you take a sniff of the blow, I hope I don't get flagged for this on YouTube. Say ho. And I was like, yo, he said that in a record. I think it was that guy was at the video shoot for 13 and Good. I remember that. I also remember the first day, I was telling y'all behind the scenes stuff. Duck Down video. I was there. We all in the video. Will came with a couple of his boys from the Bronx. And Will came over and I started talking ish to Will as soon as he walked up. And one of his boys is like, yo, what's up, Will? You got a problem? And he lifted up his shirt and he was holding. I remember that. And Will was like, yo, chill out, man. And we all started laughing. The dude wasn't serious, but he was, he wasn't serious, but he was serious. Like, yo, what up? And the dude lift up his shirt on me. Like, yo, my God. There was a lot of interesting characters around the BDP. One day I should do a whole episode breaking down all of the dudes that was around us in the night, just in my time, because there was a whole wave of dudes in the BDP in the 80s was one crew, and then I came along 89 on, there was another wild crew. A lot of people whose names is not on the records that was there. I'm really snitching right now a lot, but I'm snitching on Will because he passed away, so he can't. Will's gone, so that's my dude. I love him. I don't remember who the dude was. I know my man Jetta. Shout out to Jetta from Jersey City. He's gonna get on me about snitching. He's always getting on me about snitching. Jetta, I'm snitching. I'm snitching. I'm not telling no names. I'm just telling what happened. All right, enough of that. Let me move on, y'all. I got carried away there. Patrick Watt, MMA Crossfire. Good Times died when James died, for real. El Tico, that flute beat was dope. Thanks, Kenny. I'm going to be dropping another one Sunday. Stu's Designs, what up? The same person who did the logo, and I have his shirt on today too. Stu's Designs, what's up? Says I made it to a live only because it's mad hot in UK and I can't sleep. Oh man, I'm glad you made it. Um, Rosmel says, Joey Joe, what drugs are you doing? Facts of Life was good, but nowhere close to being as funny as what's happening. Everybody has their own opinion, man. It's cool, man. It's cool. If you thought Facts of Life was better, that's okay. Um, no answer is wrong or right. I personally agree with this. I thought Facts of Life was good. I actually knew a girl back in the 80s who looked just like not Tootie, the heavyset girl on the show, the heavyset white girl. I know a black girl who looked exactly like her, except she was black. Same face, same everything. I forgot her name. Not Tootie. Tootie was the black girl. The white girl, the heavy set white girl on the show. I knew a black girl who looked exactly like her. But yeah, I thought what's happening was incredibly funny. And I'm like 20 minutes behind now. Oh man. Oh, Spook Rebel says, I feel better now, DJ KP. I felt neglected. Oh, I didn't do the it must have went past me, the PSA. Joey Joe says, Kenny, how do you feel about BET canceling their hip hop awards and Soul Train Awards show? I don't even watch award shows, so it doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't even have known if it was canceled or not. Um, Once BET was sold to Paramount and higher ups, what did you expect? It's about dollars and cents. They probably will replace it with something else that they think is going to bring in more eyes. They don't care about the culture. They probably was just holding on long enough to do 50 years of hip hop. And then they was going to dump it anyway. As a matter of fact, belated birthday to hip hop. Yesterday was August 11th. The official, we've now narrowed it down to the official birth date of hip hop. Some people were going to get on here and argue back and forth. You're all welcome to do that. But for all intents and purposes, the powers that be have narrowed it down to August 11th, 1973. So yesterday was the birth of hip hop. Happy birthday to the culture that we all know and love. And what I'm going to do right now is scroll all the way down. The Benny Doyle scroll down because I'm too far behind. I hate it, man. Um, let's see. I'm going to jump in right at 10 minutes ago. Right here. Um, Henry Sedillo, what up, says they let James Evan go because he came to work asking them to show them elevating financially, and they told him that he didn't even have to return to the show. Wow. Um, well, first of all, Good Times and Sanford and Sonny shows were allegedly stolen from a black dude who came up with these shows. So imagine the powers that be telling a black dude after they stole the show from another black dude that they didn't like his direction of the show. But how I understand it, James was causing problems all along, and then he went in a magazine and trashed the show. And that's when they fired him. But just so happens that right when they fired him, he was about to do Roots anyway. So he transitioned right from Good Times into Roots, the most watched television series of all time. I believe something, they said, what, 80% of all households was watching Roots at one time? 80% of America was watching that show. Those kind of numbers will never, ever be duplicated. It's just not the times. Speaking of that, off subject, I see something going around about who's more famous, Beyonce or Michael Jackson. And people are actually arguing this? What are you, crazy? I'm a big Beyonce fan. She is huge. She's one of the biggest stars of all time. She's definitely one of the biggest of this generation. She's great. But Michael Jackson's fame is a different level of fame. Michael Jackson more famous than presidents. He's still known. Every little kid, he's been going for like 15 years, and yet he's as famous as ever. I don't think people who had this argument are old enough to remember Thriller. The times are not even set up for a person to be as big as Michael Jackson was. You would literally have to come from another planet and come to Earth. If somebody came from another planet and came to Earth, that's how big you would have to be. Different, you have to be as big as Michael Jackson was in the 80s. And I went on a tangent. I was talking about Roots and how 80% of America was watching that show. And James Evans, his name is not James Evans. What's his real name? I can't remember the actor's real name. Rest in peace to him. Sorry. He just passed away last summer too. He transitioned into that. But yeah, the show was never the same. And they tried forcing they tried to make JJ serious and be like a patriarch. That didn't work. And they brought in another man. They tried to have Florida get with another man. That didn't work. And Thelma had that boyfriend, and nothing worked. Nothing worked like that formula. Greg Innes is actually Esther Roll was supposed to be the star. JJ stole the show. James and Florida could not carry the show. Right, they couldn't carry the show. It was the blend, because I don't think JJ could carry the show. I think all JJ would have been too much too. It was the blend that was perfect. MMA says JJ was a phenomenon. He was. He really was a phenomenon. Derek Mallory says Henry Winkler, aka Fonzie, was Richard Belz's cousin. I did not know that. Michael J. Fox is up there too as far as biggest TV stars. He was huge. I wouldn't put him in Fonzie territory, but I'd put him way up. He was huge, but he also was a movie star too. So I'm gonna lump his popularity was also lumped into Back to the Future and all of that. So he was just like an overall star. Like somebody like Fonzie was just on TV. Because even John Travolta, who was huge as Welcome Back Carter, Vinnie Barbarino, he also did Saturday Night Live. I mean, Saturday Night Fever, which also elevated his superstardom. But Fonzie and even JJ was in movies, but JJ and Fonzie for television were just huge stars. Young, huge stars. Michael J. Fox is up there. Oh, true. Greg Innes says Arnold Jackson stole the show from Mr. Drummond from different folks. Arnold for a minute. Yeah. Every time he opened his mouth was comedy. He might be the funniest little brother of all time. If Dee was the funniest sister, Arnold might be the funniest brother. FU2 says Fonz wasn't a buffoon, though. He was the cool guy. I had Fonzie towels to the late 90s. My mom bought like 10 of them in the early 80s. Yeah. I wouldn't call JJ a buffoon. He was over the top funny, but it was a comedy show. That was his role, to be extra, because that was a real serious show. If you really think about it, they tackled violence, poverty. Every week, James was laid off looking for a job. They couldn't afford to put food on the table. Gangs, they talked about every teen, pregnancy, anything you could think of. family problems. They was tackling it. Racism every week, week after week. They were touching on the most serious topics in the country. You needed JJ to say something stupid, and James reached for his belt. Imagine right now in 2025, somebody, a father on television, reaching for his belt to beat his child. There was a whole episode about how um, Michael was going to get beat for something. I forgot what he did, and he was going to get a beating. And James like really like had his belt there. It was crazy. Like that was part of the show. Like you could get a beating on TV. James Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says Gary Coleman was huge. Yes, he was. Huge. Huge, huge, huge. MK Ultra, Freddie Boom Boom Washington. I remember him. That show was big. Arnold Horshack, Mr. Carter. I used to watch all of that. All of them. We used to just be sitting there watching all of that. Oh yeah, Beyond the Matrix. Cause I had the Vinnie Barbarino T-shirt. It said "Up your nose with a rubber hose." Yeah, that was his catchphrase. Up your nose with a rubber hose. Yeah, those catchphrases were like household catchphrases. You know how much money they probably made off that Vinnie Barbarino T-shirt? I bet you John Travolta got no money. Back then, they didn't get residuals or royalties or nothing. Here's an interesting comment. I hated Good Times. Reggie Johnson. That ish was poverty porn, and I never thought Jimmy Walker was funny. I respect that opinion, Reggie Johnson. I will have to disagree for me, but I respect it. Poverty porn. I thought JJ was hilarious. Henry Sedillo said JJ from Good Times said that the cast hardly ever spoke to each other on the set. Wow. Mainly only while filming they would deal with one another. That's real tension. Wow, I didn't know that. Kennard Roberts said, "Let's Do It Again" was my favorite with JJ amongst other big stars. Yeah, me and my brother saw that in the movies. Where were we? In Brooklyn. I believe we saw it on Flatbush Avenue. There used to be movie theaters on Flatbush. Yeah, on Flatbush Avenue. And this dude tried to rob us when we came out the movie theater. It was me, Chris, and our next door neighbor. His name was is it Andre? Me, Chris, and I think Andre came out the movie theater. We had to be like 8. How old was we then? Like 9 years old, 8 and 9 years old. And my mother let all of us go to the movie theater, and we came out, and the dude had to be like 13, 14. He was trying to go in dude's pockets. Growing up in New York was crazy, man. But yeah, I saw Let's Do It Again in the movies, and I loved the theme song. Mavis Staples is one of the greatest, most soulful voices that never gets mentioned at all. Mavis Staples is one of the greatest singers of all time. John Walker says, Ralph Mouth coined the phrase jumping the shark. I did not know that. A Fused Fonzie was huge. Henry Winkler made millions in the 70s just off of merchandising alone. He got merchandising money. If he got merchandising, I'm sure he was rich. I didn't know them contracts back in those days was just as bad as record contracts. So yeah, I would say if he got merchandising, that's fantastic. Great Beard says Michael J. Fox on Family Ties, his character pushed the parents to the side. I would agree with that. The show was supposed to be about the parents, and Michael J. Fox. The kids were supporting cast. Yep, and Michael J. Fox blew, and they had to start directing the show towards him. I wonder how that feels as an actor, when something's supposed to be about you, but the side person blows up. I know that hurts your ego tremendously, but if you're smart and you understand how lightning in a bottle strikes so fast and you got to strike while the iron's hot, if you're smart and you put your ego aside, you would say, yo, let's go in this direction. As long as we're working and we can get this money and the show be huge, let's go that way. But people's egos can't take it. I read one time that Ginger from Gilligan's Island hated the show. She actually thought when she was being cast that she was going to be the star of the show. Excuse me. How did you think you was going to be the star of Gilligan's Island? I don't know what they told Ginger, but yo, the show's called Gilligan's Island. Ginger would not do hardly any of the reunions or nothing. She hated that show because she wasn't the star. People don't understand how fortunate they are to be working. Um, let's see. Philly She said, "I love the duck down video. Y'all was banging them hammers, and Chris was tagging heavy. Yeah, think Fat Joe was there too that day." FE2 says, "Good Times didn't age well. I was born in '79. Oh, and watched Good Times repeats religiously as I got older, late 20s. A lot of episodes were hard to watch, especially after James died. I thought it aged well. I am considerably older than you. So I remember Good Times coming on in real time. It was must see TV, and I thought it aged well up until I thought James Evans was just as funny as JJ. James Evans was hilarious on that show. Um, but yeah, there was a moment when Penny was on there. It was cool when Penny was on there. It had its moments, but I don't know. Tatiana Johnson, what's up? Kenny, have you or KRS ever performed at the tunnel? Yes. Um, First of all, I used to live in the tunnel. I've mentioned many times on this show um, that I hung out to the point of obsessiveness. I was addicted to nightlife. I used to be in the tunnel. If there's 52 weeks in the year, I probably was in the tunnel 25 of the 52 in a year, 20 at least. There's times we had shows in the weekends. We would come back Sunday from 2 or 3 shows that weekend. I would be put my bags down and head right to the tunnel. Um, KRS performed there twice. Once he, I was not there, and I heard that he came in there, and I believe Puffy was there. And this is in the heat of like the Benjamins, I think. And I believe that this is a story I heard from Will, but I wasn't there. That KRS came in, Puffy went, and they killed it. Benjamins is probably the biggest song ever in the history of the tunnel. And then KRS came on after and was doing some song, and some girl yelled at him like, "We don't want to hear that we don't want to hear that right now," something like that. And Will said Chris told her off in front of the whole crowd, and everybody started cheering. I don't remember I don't know what song they were doing, but it must have been something conscious coming on the back of the Benjamins, in the tunnel, and this girl was not trying to hear it and yelled out something and got reprimanded by the teacher live, and everybody was cheering. I was not there for that, but that's what I heard. Now, the time when we were there was when Step Into a World was out, so that had to be 97. I remember the line was down the block around the corner. It was packed. We came in there and tore the tunnel down. I seen everybody perform in the tunnel, from Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas. I could tell you a million tunnel stories of people I've seen in there. Dre, Snoop, Redman, Meth, everybody. But to answer your question, yes. Um, Theo Sanders says, "Sup, Kenny, do you have any tough crew stories?" No, I don't actually. No. Patrick Wise says, JJ was to Good Times what Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA. uh, I would say no, because JJ was there from the beginning and they all were equal and he kind of exploded. Caitlin Clark is come along in year 27, I believe, of the WNBA, and she entered the league already on fire and just took the league by storm. She would be like somebody being added to the show. I'm trying to think of a television show where it was already going, it was cool, and then somebody came along and just took the show to like another level. I'm trying to think of who would be like an added guest star to a show that was already in existence. That was what Caitlin Clark would be. Benny Doyle says, I can't picture Kenny losing it. Nobody likes to see a good guy frustrated. When I was younger, I used to be a little hot-headed, which was not good. Looking back on, I'm embarrassed by some of the situations that I either put myself in or caused. MK Ultra, KP, you ever meet or work with Diamond D? Of course, Diamond D is the homie. I've seen Diamond D a million times. I've actually DJ'd for Diamond D in SOBs. Not DJ'd for him, but it was a BDP show, and they brought people on stage. Lord Finesse came on. Diamond D came on, rhymed. Um, I think I was in the studio. Diamond D produced KRS-One song on the 1995 KRS-One solo self-titled album. I think I was in the studio for that. Yeah, I've seen Diamond D a bunch of times. Seen him at Mobile Mondays in New York. Big up Diamond D. Philly She said, you're a big dude. He should have been scared. And back then I was like 100 pounds heavier than I am now. So I look like security. And I was sitting down when he yelled. So when I stood up, he was like, yo. But I was wrong. Like I said, I was so wrong. Boo's Review says, Jimmy Walker claimed that the cast would completely ignore him during downtimes, except the lady that played Thelma. Wow. They hated him. And it was all because the writers started writing more stuff for him. Patrick Wise says, Willie D learned his extortion technique from D on What's Happening. That's a good one, Patrick Wise. Oh. Oh, this is ill. Rod Justice says at Graybeard, I remember hearing that Michael J. Fox and the actress who played his mother didn't like each other. Word? And she was such a sweet lady on the show. Who didn't like her? Um, let's see. Crusher Blackwell says BET suspended the Hip Hop Awards and Soul Train Awards indefinitely. Yeah. The last time I checked the Hip Hop Awards, Marley Marl received honors and the audience was acting clueless. They're not acting clueless, they probably were clueless. These people don't know who Marley Marl is, man. CMC's Techniques in Class. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel every week. I love you. Says, salute KP. On the YouTube Live, CL announced that today is the 33rd anniversary of Mecca and the Soul Brother. I wish I could get that album on wax. I used to have that album on wax. Was it a double album? Shout out to my man CL. Shout out to Pete Rock. Pete Rock was on this channel. For those that did not get a chance to check out the video, the interview we did, Pete Rock was on the channel. I met Pete Rock because I walked right up to him and said I loved the song Mecca and the Soul Brother. That was my shit. That's when they had the EP. I think it was All Sold Out was the EP. And I went to the album release party. And I was just in there chilling, and I saw Pete Rock. I didn't know him, never met him. I walked right up to him, introduced myself, and said, yo, I really like your song, Mecca and the Soul Brother. That's the shit. And he was so humble and thankful. And we became instant friends ever since. Shout out to the Chocolate Boy Wonder. All right, I'm going to jump down a little bit. I'm 20 minutes behind. I'm going to jump. Hey, this because there's good comments in here. I get frustrated by this, but it is what it is. Philly Sheed, I'm here now. I'm 20 minutes back. Says, nobody has ever been more famous than Michael Joseph Jackson. Nobody. 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 I don't think nobody ever will. This is interesting. KP, I'm 57 and my grandson is 4. He knows both MJs. Yeah, Michael Jordan is up there too. Michael Jordan is way up there too. I would not put him over Michael Jackson, but he's way up there. Is Beyonce more known than Michael Jordan? And Beyonce is probably one of the most famous women that ever lived. But was she bigger than Madonna or Princess Diana? If you're comparing women to women, who's the most famous woman ever? I would say either Princess Di or Madonna and Beyonce. Those would be my 3. I mean, Taylor Swift is famous right now, but I don't know if she's as famous as Beyonce worldwide. I don't know. Tim Storm says, white people are losing their minds over the new Taylor Swift album. White people lose their minds over all the Taylor Swift albums. I've played Taylor Swift from quite a few parties, and they lose it. Shout out to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, come on the channel. I would love to interview you. Gregory Netta says, Beyonce is not worldwide. I don't think she's worldwide. Just how worldwide? Because in this day and age of social media, things go around the world so fast. That's the thing. Michael Jackson, he went around the world 3 or 4 times and there was no social media. Just on the strength of the videos and his music was like nothing you had ever seen before. Yes, thank you. Old Intel says, John Amos. I never would have got that name out. Patrick Wise says, I was in 7th grade when Roots came on. Everybody watched it. White kids were terrified of us black kids when we came to school the next day. Yes, that is a fact. 40 plus years later, Michael Jackson's music still sounds new. Not only does it sound new audio-wise, sonically it sounds still crispy. If you ever listen to it in headphones, and all of the R&B artists, over the years, they just did Michael Jackson. Just do Michael Jackson on stage, you'll be fine. Brooklyn Geek says, to be fair, we can't really compare famous pre-internet. Yeah. To be honest, yeah, it's like two different worlds. But I am not thinking B is anywhere close to Michael Jackson. Yeah. And the internet can make a regular person go famous instantly too. Like you can go viral. The internet makes everyone knows, have all the information at the same time. Like back in the day, it would take months for all the information to get all over the world. You could be big in one part of the world and no one else knows you in the other part of the world, and it takes a minute to catch up. Now with social media, bang, everybody in the whole wide world gets it at one time. But that also makes you die faster too, because you instantly on and you're instantly off. Um, but that's a good point. Pre-internet is like a whole different world. Mike Rocks 25 says, just to be clear, Roots, the saga of an American family, is fictional. It is fictional, but it could have easily been, that could have been any family in those days. It's fictional, but it's realistic. It was so realistic. That's what made it the phenomenon that it was. FU2 says, only people born after 1995 think Beyonce is as big as Michael Jackson. And imagine the fact that they even know who Michael Jackson is proves the point. Uh, Gregory Nettis, because I'm not a Beyonce fan. Nah, that's cool. Michael Jackson is the biggest celebrity since Jesus. Yeah, I mean, even like you think of like a pope. If I showed you the picture of the pope to most people in the world and say, who is this and what's his name? What does he do? Like you might know he's the pope because of what he has on. You might not know like what his pope name is, but Michael Jackson, I'm trying to think of who could, only Michael Jordan you could put. Jordan, who could you put? Trump right now is probably as famous as anyone who's ever lived. Right now, Trump is world known, renowned. No, Trump is known from all over the world. Jason Wall says Florida's boyfriend was Bumpy from Shaft. Isn't it funny when you see an actor from one thing that you know it's something else, and it's like you can't get past it? Tatiana Johnson says, who do you think would win in a versus song for song between Janet and Beyonce? That would be great battle. That would be a great battle. Janet doesn't have that many albums though. How many albums Janet got? Like 8? You put Beyonce and Destiny's Child, could be a problem. Beyonce could be a real problem with Destiny's Child and Beyonce together. And then, she's bringing out people who she did songs with. She's gonna bring out like Hove. She could bring out Lady Gaga, and who else she's done songs with? Nicki Minaj. And B could be a real problem. Like who Janet gonna bring out? Q-Tip. Who Janet did songs with? Like if Michael Jackson was there, if she brought out her brother, that would end everything. But unfortunately, he's gone. Uh, Janet hasn't even done. She Buster. She did a song with Buster. Janet doesn't have that many people to bring out. I'm going Beyonce. Samuel Gervais, is Beyonce a bigger superstar than James Brown? Absolutely. Great Beard says Fonzie was Beatlesque. I would say so. Fonzie was gigantic, bro. I don't know if people really remember those days like that. I do. Oh, look who we have here. Anyway, what's up? Says Grease. I forgot about Grease. Yeah, it was Saturday Night Fever and Grease. John Travolta for a minute. Um, was huge. MMA says Arnold was super duper huge. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think you're talking about, was the biggest movie star in the world for a minute. Eddie Murphy at a time was the biggest blockbuster movie star for a minute. Sly Stone and these guys, they're not bigger than Michael Jackson. FE2 says Fonzie was very huge. I was like 4 or 5 years old watching Happy Days waiting for Fonzie. Everybody was. And when he said, hey, it was over. Kenneth Smith said, yeah, you're right, Kenny. The numbers on Roots was nuts. That was the era of the miniseries. But yeah, that couple of weeks was crazy. Like Who Shot JR? They literally had a Who Shot JR t-shirt. Remember Who Shot JR? That's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I guessed Who Shot JR. Y'all not going to believe me? I know none of y'all going to believe me, but I'm telling you right now, I said it was Christian, the sister of Sue Ellen. I said that right after it happened. And then it happened. No one will ever believe me, but I correctly guessed Who Shot JR. I used to watch that show every week. Um, let's see. Brooklyn Geek says, good call, KP. Arnold Drummond was the funniest little brother ever on TV. I think he was. I'm trying to think who else I can compare him to, but I don't know if anybody was funnier than Arnold, man. Uh, Parson 79 says their rent was like $7. Yeah. Did they ever say what the rent was? Because I know they lived in the projects, good times. They lived in the projects in Chicago. They lived in the projects with crazy crime, and their door was never locked. Walona used to just walk in there. Just walk in their house. Boom. Door wide open. Even Bookman, Booger did he used to knock? He was funny too. Booger was funny. John Walker says Mad Dog. Mad Dog is probably in my top 5 funniest times that I laughed out loud in the history of watching television. If those that know the Mad Dog episode on Good Times, when that gang dude said, Thelma, what kind of name is that? And Thelma said, my mother took one look at me and named me Thelma. Your mother took one look at you and named you Mad Dog. I was crying. When Brooklyn Geek says when JJ got shot during running with a gang. I remember that. Henry Sedil says, Kenny P, do you remember the episode of Fat Albert when they took the gang to the Los Angeles County Jail? That's a show I never watched or liked, Fat Albert. I never saw one episode of Fat Albert. Couldn't tell you nothing about it. I never cared for it. MK Ultra said JJ was a talented visual artist, more than a clown. Oh, that's right. He used to draw on the show. That's right. He was a artist. That's right. Pastor 79 says Michael was boycotting school. That's what it was. And James was going to whoop that ass. That's right. Um, Lindell Handy Sr. says D from What's Happening passed away recently. Yes, we were talking about that. Yeah, we talked about that for a minute. For those that's just checking in, this is the Kenny Parker Show. And we do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will not be here on Friday unless I got a DJ gig. Unless it gets canceled, I will not be here on Friday. I might push it to Saturday night. Marquise Bankroll, the Black Jesus episode was funny. I remember that. Yup. All of those episodes were funny, man. John Lee says, remember James beat one of Michael's friends? I don't even remember. I don't remember that. Oh my God. Oh man. MMA says Happy Days has sit on it. Yeah, that was their catchphrase. Sit on it. Remember when Fonzie used to hit anything and it would, like stuff wouldn't work and he would just hit it and it would just come on, lights and radios and stuff? He was just that dude. Brooklyn Geek says, all I know for sure is we will never see a poor black family on TV ever again. That is a fact. First of all, the African American community today wouldn't even allow that to be, that show wouldn't even be on television right now. The stuff that they showed, the protests would be out of control. This is a good one. Kevin Smith said, JJ to good times is Flav to PE. I agree. That's exactly what he is. That's exactly what it's like. Yes, I agree. That's a great call. JJ to good times is like Flav to PE. Facts. Alice had Kiss My Grits. That was funny. Mel, you could kiss my grits. That was funny too. I used to watch Alice a lot too. She just passed away recently as well. Damn, man. I mean, our whole childhood is just going. They tried to give Florence Jean Castleberry her own show. It didn't work. Some people are good for um a side show, like a co-star to the big star. You don't need them to do you don't need their shtick for the whole show. You just need to come in and out. Rico Smith said the Beaver was big on the low. You know what? Those shows from the 50s and 60s, those shows were just, because back then there was like 2 channels, right? 3 channels. So like Lucille Ball and the Honeymooners, these shows were huge as well. I mean, this is before my time, but those shows were huge as well. Brady Bunch, all of them people. You're right. The Beaver was huge. John Walker said Mabel King played in The Wiz. That's right. Mabel King was her name. She would beat people too. Come to think of it, Roger was always afraid to get a beating. Yeah. Samuel Gervais says, I don't believe Beyonce is a bigger superstar than James Brown, Prince, or Michael Jackson. Now, I think she's bigger than James Brown. She's as recognizable as Prince was, too. I think she's up there with Prince. I'm talking about recognizable worldwide. You show a picture or a video of this person in any part of the globe, and everyone, most people will know who they are and know their name and what they do. I don't think James Brown was on that level. James Brown was an R&B star. Prince was huge. I would put, I don't know if he wasn't on Michael Jackson's level though. Michael Jackson was something else, man. And Prince is my favorite artist of all time. I think Beyonce is as big as Prince, bigger than James Brown, but not bigger than Michael Jackson. Um, I'm gonna jump all the way down. Let me make this a little smaller, see what's going on. I want to jump down a little bit. Don Dallas TV, bless up, bless up. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Terrell McMiller, um, thank you once again, as usual, my brother. Says, Yo, KP, check it. Cars today talk to you and drive themselves. 40 years ago, what show did all that happen? Cars talking and driving by themselves? What, the Jetsons? The Jetsons had a watch. They had TVs and watches that you could talk to and people would be there. I thought that was impossible. Now you could do that's nothing. Cars that talk to you. I'm gonna go with the Jetsons is all I could think of off the top of my head. Uh Futuristic show. Oh, Knight Rider. Knight Rider. And then Knight Rider had a car that talked to him. Knight Rider was like AI. Knight Rider was like Siri. And it could drive itself, right? Knight Rider. I'm going with Knight Rider and Jetsons. All right, I'm gonna jump all the way down and scroll. Benny Doyle, is you with me? Um, oh, is Beyonce bigger than Cleopatra? Yeah, to me. First of all, Cleopatra in her time, I would say the world didn't know what Cleopatra or who she was or what she looked like unless you were in Egypt or heard her name. Her name probably circulated in the Middle East. But I guess if somebody said Cleopatra, there she go, you would know. Her name was scrolled on the wall. So I guess time, for all time, she's probably bigger now than she was then. I think Marilyn Monroe was a superstar in the 50s, and she's an icon even today. Is Beyonce more famous than Marilyn Monroe is a question. Was. You can't compare Beyonce to Cleopatra only because of the way information traveled back then. But most people in the world, if you showed them a picture of Cleopatra, they wouldn't know who she was. They might say that that's an Egyptian. They might say that's something to do with the pyramids, but would they say that's Cleopatra? If you say the name Cleopatra, most people go, oh, wasn't she beautiful or something? Like people might be vague, but if you show Beyonce around the world, I'm pretty sure most people would be like, that's B, man. Shit, Blue Ivy might be bigger than a lot of people. Oh. Joey Joe says pre-internet, it was three things everyone knew, no matter where you were in the world: Coca-Cola, the Superman symbol, and Michael Jackson. I agree with that. I agree with that, Joey Joe. I agree. AP, I can't even watch anything with slavery or slave connotation now. Leave it at that. I can see that. It's a very, very touchy subject. Very touchy subject. And very emotional. I get emotional watching some of that stuff too, but I'll watch it. Rosmel says Roots wasn't fictional. Well, the story was, I believe, damn, I can't remember. Alex Haley. Alex Haley wrote Roots. I believe he wrote that story, but it's based on word of mouth, but it wasn't like a real story. Like Kunta Kinte wasn't a real person, but he could have been any of millions of people. The Roots story was real, but it wasn't really the people. Like what they say, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. I believe that the story could have been anybody. Red, did MJ invent the moonwalk? I believe no. He got the people was moonwalking in the hood before Michael Jackson. That was a breakdance move. He learned that from the breakdancers and took it worldwide. Gregory Netter said Beyonce never made man faints. Michael Jackson made females all races faints. That's how good he was. Yes. Well, the Beatles had people fainting. The Beatles were huge in the 60s. The Beatles were the biggest thing in the 60s. How big were they is the question. I still got Michael Jackson over the Beatles, but they're as big as a band. They're as big as it gets. Theo Sanders says, I don't think we've seen traditional big stars since the 80s, 90s. I agree. I don't even think there's any more movie stars now. All of the movie stars are either been stars, like you said, from 10, 15 years ago, or they're trying to force people onto you, trying to make stars. You're right. We have not seen a traditional big star since the 80s, since before the internet. There's an interesting name I forgot who was incredibly famous and well respected. Muhammad Ali is one of the most famous people that ever lived. I would have him and Jordan right there as the biggest athletes ever. I would have Mike Jackson a nudge above them. That's just me. Gregory Ness says even Elvis Presley is not as famous as Michael Jackson. I agree, and he was huge. Jason Wall says Messi is pretty worldwide famous, just not here. Yeah, soccer stars. I guess a sports star is pretty big. But if you say just not here, then that counts a lot. Like Michael Jackson's big in like Africa and Asia, places that barely get a lot of commercial people. They know Michael Jackson. We are into overtime right now. I just want to get a few more comments in. This is interesting. Janet's famous nip slip at the Super Bowl. I always hated that because Janet got all the flack. And Justin Timberlake kind of distanced himself from her. Like he acted like he didn't even know her. Like I was up there. I was just up there. I was going to the corner store and happened to stop by the Super Bowl and just walk past stage. I didn't even know what was going on. That's how he was acting. He got no heat for that. Janet, that really ended her career. Not ended it, but really hurt her career severely. She hasn't been the same since. Um, I always felt like Justin Timberlake got a pass for that. I don't know why. Well, Bursto Boo Wall says, I'm taking Janet over Beyonce. Really? In a versus? Janet would smoke Beyonce. Really? Control got like, what is back in the 80s, they had like 8 songs. Control. She's how many albums she did in the 80s? The first one she did when she was a teen. Let's not count that. She did Control. She had like two big ones in the 80s, right? Rhythm Nation, Control. She had like a big one in like 91 or 92. Janet got like 8 albums. I think I don't Destiny Child. I mean, we will never know, but I got my money on B, man. Brand Yakubia says, "Hi, Kenny. If you can meet Beyonce, Mike Jackson, or Jesus, who would you pick?" Jesus, of course. Not even in the amount of wisdom that Jesus could pass upon you from his mouth. He could fix you up a little bit if you have a little ailments. He could fix you up if you have a little ailments. He could make food out of thin air. He could fill up your refrigerator, fix whatever ailments you have, save you, give you wisdom. Nobody ain't doing that. And walk on water too, just in case you're wondering. Ain't nobody doing that. I'm going Jesus all day. I see a lot of people saying Janet all day. I don't think so. Keith says Janet has 11 studio albums. Okay, and I would argue that the last 2 or 3 of them did not have any real big songs on them. I would think, I'm telling you, on a versus, song for song, Beyonce has a lot of songs that were big records on the radio that people know. You put them in an arena. I'm not talking about performing or anything like that. I'm talking about if you put them in an arena of mostly women, and let's say we're gonna say ages who would know B, let's say 40, 30s that would know Janet and know B. Let's say 40s, 30s, 50s, 40s, 30s. Man. Mike Rocks 25. I always say this, and she never gets mentioned. No other female artist has a run in an entire frame Donna Summers has. I agree 100%. From like 76 to like 80, you could put Donna Summers up against any female artist, and Donna Summers destroyed those 5 years. Just hit after hit after hit. It's the fact that people don't respect disco, so any disco star is not going to get their credit. Has any disco star even made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Sammy Gervais says, I have Janet Jackson over Beyonce. Dartmouth says, I can't name one Beyonce song. I know many of Janet's songs. Helen of Troy is fuming. Helen of Troy only got famous because of the book, right? Is it the Odyssey? What book is that? The Iliad? What book is it? I don't know. The Odyssey or the Iliad is the story of that whole battle, right? Greeks versus the Trojans. Helen of Troy is famous for the book. If you took a statue from a museum of Helen of Troy and you showed it, most people wouldn't know who it is. Beyonce's statue is going to be known for all time. This is an opinion right here. I love Janet, but her voice doesn't compare to Beyonce. You would have to get Aretha Franklin or Patti LaBelle or Shaka. That was a tough. I don't think Beyonce's in their category. Beyonce can sing, but I don't. That's Aretha, Patti, and Shaka. Sheesh. You're talking about the best of all time. Linda Hardy says, nope, Janet. A lot of Janet. I got B. I would love to see it though. Lindo Hardy says, I believe you, KP. Ha ha. We talking about who shot JR? I called it. I know y'all don't believe me. Lindo Hardy believes me, man. I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom. And then I'm gonna jump off. Sheesh, there's a lot of comments, y'all. Oh man. This is the worst part of doing the lives. Is scrolling to the bottom. Uh-oh, why is my iPad about to die? I've only been on an hour and a half. I only got an hour and a half of power. So I'm at 10%, so I'm about to be out anyway. Why it only lasted an hour and a half? The reason why I chose Janet over Beyonce because Janet made music for everyone, not just women. I agree. Are we talking about who you like better or who would win in a versus? Are we talking about who you like better? I mean, Janet, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about who would win song for song in a versus. My battery's about to die, y'all. I'm at 10%. MMA says Karen Carpenter was an amazing singer and drummer. Shout out Karen Carpenter. Sad story. Anyway, says the Odyssey. It's the Odyssey is Helen of Troy's story, right? Ah, this is interesting. My comment got Doyle, but famous women, Oprah. Oprah is really famous. Still don't know if she's famous as a singer, but she's really famous too. In America, is Oprah huge? Because remember, Oprah went in the store to buy. Remember, she had that she went to a European store. They didn't know who she was, and they were saying she couldn't buy a certain bag because she didn't have enough money. They didn't know who she was. Oprah in the rest of the world, I don't know how big she is. Tracy says, we love the DJ Kenny Parker show. Thank you so much, Tracy. I should leave it at that. Buffy says, Janet, Beyonce dance off. Now that's Janet all day. Beyonce could dance her ass off. Don't get it twisted. But Janet, I think, is the GOAT dancer for women. Benny Doe says, charge your shit, KP. Don't shoulder shrug. Get that done for Saturday, please. Normally I have it plugged in, but I was trying to let the battery come down. I started at 80% when we started this live. We've been on for an hour and 44 minutes, and now I'm at 8. Why is that? Is it because I'm using Wi-Fi? Is it because I'm on? Am I using the? Is it because I'm using the microphone? Why is it that I only got an hour and a half of battery time? I don't understand that. You might have other windows open or apps on. Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, it shouldn't be that, right? All right, let me make this smaller. I'm about to jump off. FU2, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Dipset had more hits than the Locks, but still got destroyed. That is true. That is true. That's a good point, FU2. I don't know how the showmanship would be. I know Janet could go, but Beyonce could go too. So I don't know how the showmanship would be. That's a factor. You are correct. I'm going song for song. Those are other factors that would factor in. I'm going song for song and who would bring out special guests. I don't think Janet could compete in that world. She'd be up there, but I don't think she could compete with Beyonce like that. But there are other factors. All right, I'm gonna jump off. This is the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Big up to the Rewind crew who's gonna check this out later on. I will not be here on Friday unless my gig gets canceled. I don't think it will be, but I will not be here on Friday. And I will catch you guys then. I'm at 7% battery. I gotta really look into this. Why am I drained like this? I don't understand. This is a brand new iPad too. All right, I'm jumping off. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.